The city of Manhattan never sleeps, and on this particular Thursday night in late October, the financial district was no exception. The towering glass buildings reflected the amber glow of streetlights, while a cold wind swept through the narrow streets, carrying with it the smell of rain and exhaust fumes. Inside the 42nd floor of the prestigious Alharith Investment Group headquarters, the fluorescent lights hummed softly in the empty corridors. Rosa Mendez pushed her cleaning cart through the marble hallway, her rubber-soled shoes squeaking against the polished floor. At 43 years old, she had been cleaning office buildings in New York for nearly 2 decades. Her dark hair, streaked with premature gray, was pulled back into a tight bun. Deep lines etched around her eyes told stories of countless sleepless nights and double shifts. Tonight, like most nights, she was alone on this floor, working the graveyard shift that paid just enough to cover her daughter's community college tuition and the mounting medical bills from her mother's recent hospitalization. The Alharith offices were unlike any other building she cleaned. Everything screamed wealth. The hand-woven Persian rugs, the original artwork on the walls, the mahogany furniture that probably cost more than she made in a year. She moved methodically, emptying trash bins, wiping down desks, careful not to disturb any documents. She had learned long ago that in places like this, invisibility was a cleaner's greatest asset. Before we continue with Rosa's story tonight, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city and country in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next compelling tale. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Rosa had just finished cleaning the conference room when she noticed light seeping from beneath the corner office door. Her heart skipped. The executive suite was supposed to be empty at this hour. She glanced at her watch, 11:47 p.m. She hesitated, her hand hovering over her cart. Protocol dictated she should leave and come back, but she was already behind schedule. Her supervisor had been on her case about efficiency, and she couldn't afford any complaints. She knocked softly. No answer. Maybe someone had simply forgotten to turn off the lights. She knocked again. Louder this time. Still nothing. Slowly, she turned the handle and pushed the door open. The office was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the glittering city skyline. But Rosa's attention was immediately drawn to the man standing by the window, his back to her. He was tall, dressed in an impeccably tailored navy suit, his dark hair perfectly styled. She recognized him instantly from the photographs in the lobby. Khalid Alharith, the founder and CEO, one of the most successful investors in the country. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Alharith," Rosa stammered, her accent thickening with nervousness. "I didn't know anyone was here. I can come back later." He didn't turn around. For a moment, she thought he hadn't heard her. Then, in a voice that was surprisingly soft and measured, he spoke. "Do you know what it's like to have everything and feel like you have nothing?" The question caught her completely off guard. She stood frozen in the doorway, unsure whether she should answer or quietly retreat. He finally turned to face her. Khalid Alharith was younger than she'd imagined, probably in his late 30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that held an unsettling intensity. But what struck her most was the exhaustion etched into his face. This wasn't the confident mogul from the magazine covers. This was a man who looked like he was barely holding himself together. I don't understand, sir," Rosa managed. He walked to his desk and sat down heavily in the leather chair. "Of course you don't. Why would you? You probably think I have it all figured out." He gestured vaguely at the opulent office around them. "The money, the success, the respect." Rosa shifted uncomfortably. This felt wrong, intimate in a way that crossed professional boundaries she'd carefully maintained for years. "Mr. Alharith, I really should go. My daughter died 3 months ago," he said abruptly. The words hung in the air like smoke. Rosa's hand, which had been reaching for the door handle, fell to her side. She was 7 years old. Leukemia. His voice was flat, emotionless, as if he were reading from a report. "We tried everything. The best doctors in the world, experimental treatments, specialists from 5 different countries. I spent millions, and she died anyway, in a hospital bed, scared and in pain." Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. She thought of her own daughter, Isabella, 20 years old and full of dreams. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she whispered. "Everyone's sorry," Khalid said bitterly. "Sorry doesn't bring her back. Money doesn't bring her back. Success doesn't bring her back." He looked up at her, and she saw raw grief in his eyes. "Do you have children?" "A daughter," Rosa said softly. "She's in college." "Then you understand. You'd do anything for her, wouldn't you?" "Anything," Rosa confirmed without hesitation. Khalid nodded slowly. "My wife left me, blamed me for Layla's death, said I worked too much, that I wasn't there enough during her treatment. Maybe she's right. I don't know anymore. He ran his hands through his hair, disturbing its perfect arrangement. I come here at night because I can't stand my apartment. It's too quiet, too empty. Here, at least, there's the hum of the city, the sense that the world keeps moving. Rosa didn't know what to say. She'd spent years being invisible to people like him, and now here he was, spilling his grief to her like she was a confidant. It felt surreal. Why are you telling me this? She finally asked. Because you're here, he said simply. Because you knocked on my door. Because sometimes strangers are easier to talk to than people who think they know you. He leaned back in his chair. What's your name? Rosa. Rosa Mendez. Rosa. He repeated it, as if testing how it felt. How long have you worked here? 3 years in this building. 17 years total cleaning offices. 17 years, he echoed. That's longer than my daughter lived. The pain in his voice was palpable. He stood up abruptly and walked back to the window. Do you ever feel invisible, Rosa? Like you're moving through spaces, but nobody really sees you? The question struck deep. Every day, she admitted. I'm starting to understand that feeling, Khalid said quietly. Before Layla got sick, I thought I mattered. I thought what I did was important. Building wealth, creating jobs, making smart investments. Now, he trailed off, shaking his head. Now it all seems meaningless. Rosa took a tentative step into the office. It's not meaningless. You provide jobs for people like me. You've built something. Have I? He turned to look at her. Or have I just accumulated things while missing out on what actually matters? The office fell silent except for the muted sounds of traffic far below. Rosa felt the weight of the moment, the unexpected connection forming between two people from completely different worlds. My mother is sick, Rosa found herself saying. Diabetes complications. She might lose her leg. The medical bills are crushing us, even with insurance. I work 16-hour days, 6 days a week, just to keep up. She didn't know why she was sharing this with him. This powerful man who could probably solve her problems with a single check. Maybe because he'd been vulnerable first. Maybe because she was tired of being invisible. But you keep going, Khalid observed. What choice do I have? My daughter needs me. My mother needs me. You keep going because people depend on you. Layla depended on me, and I failed her. You didn't fail her, Rosa said firmly. Cancer failed her. The world failed her. You did everything you could. Did I? His voice cracked. I was reviewing quarterly reports when she asked me to read her a story. I was on a conference call when she wanted me to play with her. I told myself I was working for her future. But what future? She didn't have one. Rosa crossed the room and stood near the window, maintaining a respectful distance but close enough to be a presence. My father died when I was 15, she said quietly. He was a construction worker, worked himself to death. Literally. Heart attack on a job site. She looked out at the city lights. I was angry at him for years. Angry that he worked so much, that he missed my school plays and birthdays. But you know what I realized? He did it because he loved us. Every brick he laid, every beam he welded, it was for us. Your daughter knew you loved her. How can you be sure? Because love isn't just about being present every moment. It's about sacrifice. About doing the hard things so they can have better. You tried to save her. That's love. Khalid was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Coming to work, going through the motions. Everything reminds me of her. Last week I fired my assistant because she wore the same perfume Layla's nurse used. How insane is that? It's grief, Rosa said gently. You're not insane. You're broken. And that's okay. Is it? He laughed bitterly. I have a company depending on me. Hundreds of employees, billions of dollars in assets. I can't afford to be broken. Everyone breaks sometimes, Rosa said. The strong ones admit it. He turned to look at her fully, really seeing her for perhaps the first time. You're very wise, Rosa Mendez. I'm just a cleaner who's lived long enough to know pain when I see it. Khalid walked back to his desk and sat down, pulling open a drawer. Rosa tensed, suddenly aware of how vulnerable her position was. She was alone, with a grieving, unpredictable billionaire, in an empty office building at midnight. If he wanted to harm her, who would even know? But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a photograph. He stared at it for a long moment before turning it to face her. A beautiful little girl with dark curls and a bright smile looked back at her. She was wearing a yellow dress and holding an ice cream cone. That was taken 6 months before her diagnosis, Khalid said. She was so full of life, so happy. Look at those eyes. Rosa looked at the photograph, at the joy captured in that frozen moment. She was beautiful. She was everything. He set the photo down carefully, reverently. After she died, I thought about ending things, joining her. It seemed like the only way to stop the pain. Rosa's blood ran cold. Mr. Alharith, I'm not going to, he said quickly. Don't worry. I'm too much of a coward for that. But the thought was there, is still there sometimes, in the darkest moments. He looked up at her. Is that terrible to admit? It's human. Rosa said. But please, if you're having those thoughts, you need to talk to someone, a professional. I have a therapist. 3, actually. They all say the same things. Time heals. Grief is a process. Be patient with yourself. He waved his hand dismissively. But time doesn't heal. It just makes you better at pretending. Maybe pretending is how you survive until the real healing starts, Rosa suggested. Khalid studied her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. How much do they pay you to clean this office? The abrupt change in topic threw her. $15 an hour. $15, he repeated slowly. And how many hours do you work? This building? 20 hours a week, but I have 3 other buildings. Total about 65 hours a week. He did the math in his head. That's not even $40,000 a year before taxes. Rosa felt a flush of shame, though she didn't know why. She worked hard for every dollar. It's enough to get by. Is it? You said your mother's medical bills are crushing you, that your daughter's in community college. Is that where she wants to be? Or is it just what you can afford? The questions felt invasive, but she answered honestly. Isabella wanted to go to NYU for journalism, but the tuition, she shook her head. Community college is fine. She's getting an education, but not her dream. Dreams are expensive, Mr. Alharith. Most people can't afford them. He leaned forward, his eyes sharp now, focused in a way they hadn't been since she'd entered the office. What if I offered you a job? Right now. Not cleaning, something else. Would you take it? Rosa's heart raced. What kind of job? I don't know yet, but clearly you're more than a cleaner. You have wisdom, empathy, perspective. I could use someone like that around here. Mr. Alharith, I appreciate the gesture, but do you think it's a gesture? He stood up, animated now. Do you think I'm offering because I feel sorry for you? I'm offering because talking to you for 15 minutes has been more valuable than 1,000 therapy sessions. You're real. You understand loss. You understand sacrifice. That's rare in my world. Rosa felt overwhelmed. I don't have any qualifications for working in finance. Neither did I when I started. I was an immigrant kid whose father ran a convenience store in Queens. I learned. He began pacing, energy flowing back into his movements. What if I told you I'm starting a new division, a charitable foundation in Layla's name? I need someone to help run it, someone who understands what real people need, someone who's lived it. I've never run anything in my life except a household budget, Rosa protested. Then you're perfect. Most charity organizations are run by people who've never struggled a day in their lives. They make decisions based on spreadsheets and statistics, not humanity. He stopped pacing and looked at her directly. I need someone who won't let me lose sight of why I'm doing this. Someone who'll tell me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Can you do that? Rosa's mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to women like her. Mr. Alharith, you don't even know me. We've talked for 20 minutes. How can you possibly? Sometimes you just know, he interrupted. The moment you walked in here, you could have left when you realized I was upset. Most people would have. But you stayed. You listened. You shared your own pain to ease mine. That tells me more about your character than any resume could. This is crazy, Rosa whispered. Maybe, but I've been thinking clearly for the first time in months. He pulled out his phone. I'm going to give you my personal number. Think about it. Sleep on it. Talk to your daughter about it. But Rosa, I'm serious about this offer. $60,000 a year to start. Full benefits, including health insurance that will cover your mother's treatment. We'll figure out the exact role as we go. Rosa felt dizzy. $60,000. Health insurance. It was more than she'd ever imagined making. It was life-changing, but it also felt wrong somehow, like she was taking advantage of a grieving man's vulnerability. Why are you really doing this? She asked quietly. Khalid set down his phone and met her eyes. Because I need to do something good. Something that matters. I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I can save someone else's. Maybe I can help mothers like you who are breaking their backs just to survive. And selfishly, because I need someone around me who doesn't see me as just money and power, someone who sees me as a man who's trying to find his way through darkness. There was such raw honesty in his words that Rosa felt her resistance crumbling. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? Then you fail. We all do, but at least you'll fail while trying something meaningful, not just surviving. He gestured around the office. This building, this company, it's all just numbers and deals. What we could build together, the foundation that could actually change lives, isn't that worth the risk? Rosa thought about Isabella, brilliant and ambitious, settling for less because it was all they could afford. She thought about her mother, stoic and proud, facing the possibility of amputation, because they couldn't afford the best care. She thought about herself, 43 years old with aching knees and a tired back, wondering if this was all there was to life. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll think about it. Khalid smiled, and for the first time since she'd entered the office, she saw a glimpse of life in his eyes. Thank you for tonight, for listening, for reminding me that there are still good people in the world. There are lots of good people, Mr. Alharith. Sometimes you just have to look past the marble floors to see them. He laughed. A real laugh. Call me Khalid. If we're going to work together, we should at least be on first-name basis. If, Rosa emphasized. "I haven't decided yet." "But you're considering it. That's enough for now." He walked her to the door. "Please, finish your work. I've kept you too long as it is." Rosa returned to her cart in the hallway, her hands shaking slightly as she gathered her supplies. The conversation felt surreal, like it had happened to someone else. She went through the motions of cleaning his office while he returned to his position by the window, both of them now comfortable in the shared silence. When she finished, she paused at the door. "Khalid," he turned, "your daughter would be proud of what you're trying to do, creating something good in her memory. That matters." His eyes glistened. "Thank you, Rosa. That means more than you know." She left the office and continued her rounds, but her mind was racing. Could this really be happening? Could one conversation at midnight change everything? She thought about the photograph of Layla, about Khalid's grief, about his desperate need to find meaning in his loss. She thought about her own struggles, her own dreams deferred. By the time Rosa finished her shift at 3 a.m., she had made her decision. She pulled out her phone and found Khalid's number already saved in her contacts. He must have added it while she was cleaning. She typed out a message. "I'll do it. When do I start?" The response came almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "Tomorrow. Meet me at the office at 10 a.m. We have a foundation to build." Rosa walked out into the cold October morning, the city beginning to wake around her. The same streets, the same buildings, but somehow everything looked different. She thought about the strange path life takes, how suffering can create unexpected connections, how darkness sometimes leads to light in the most unlikely ways. She had entered that office as a cleaner, invisible and overlooked. She was leaving as something else entirely, a partner in purpose, a reminder of humanity, a bridge between worlds that rarely touched. Khalid had lost his daughter, the most precious thing in his life. But in his grief, he'd seen Rosa, truly seen her in a way no one in these buildings ever had. And in seeing her, in offering her a chance, he'd given himself something too, a reason to keep going, a way to transform his pain into purpose. The next morning, Rosa told Isabella everything over breakfast. Her daughter's eyes grew wider with each detail. "Mom, this is insane," Isabella said. "Are you sure this guy is legitimate? This could be a scam or worse." "I know it sounds crazy, but I looked him up. He's real. The company is real. And honestly, Mija, what do I have to lose? I'll go to the meeting, hear him out properly. If it feels wrong, I walk away." "What if it's real, though?" Isabella's voice trembled with excitement and fear. "What if this actually happens? Then maybe you'll get to go to NYU after all." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, you can't make decisions based on my dreams." "Why not? You're my dream." Rosa took her daughter's hand. "I've spent 20 years playing it safe, doing what's practical, surviving. Maybe it's time to take a risk. Maybe it's time to really live." At 9:45 a.m., Rosa stood outside the Alharith Investment Group building, wearing her best dress, a simple navy blue outfit she usually reserved for church. She felt completely out of place among the stream of professionals in expensive suits flowing through the revolving doors. Her hands were sweaty. Her heart was pounding. This was real. This was actually happening. She rode the elevator to the 42nd floor, her reflection in the polished doors showing a nervous woman who looked like she was heading to an execution rather than a meeting. When the doors opened, she was greeted by a smartly dressed woman in her 30s. "Rosa Mendez?" the woman asked with a warm smile. "Yes, that's me. I'm Jennifer, Mr. Alharith's executive assistant. He's expecting you. Please follow me." They walked through the same corridors Rosa had cleaned countless times, but now she was seeing them from a different perspective. People nodded at Jennifer as they passed, and by extension, at her. She wasn't invisible anymore. Jennifer led her to a conference room rather than Khalid's office. Inside, Khalid was already there, along with two other people, a man in his 50s wearing rimless glasses, and a woman about Rosa's age with kind eyes. Khalid stood as she entered, and she was struck by how different he looked from the broken man she'd met the night before. He was composed, professional, though she could still see the grief lingering in his eyes. "Rosa, thank you for coming. Please, sit." He gestured to a chair at the table. "This is David Chen, my head of legal, and Margaret Wilson, who runs our current corporate philanthropy programs. I've briefed them on our conversation last night and my vision for the Layla Foundation." Rosa sat, feeling scrutinized by the other two people in the room. David looked skeptical while Margaret seemed curious. "Let me be direct," David said, his voice crisp and businesslike. "Mr. Alharith has expressed his intention to hire you for a significant role in this new foundation. I need to understand your qualifications and background before we proceed." Rosa's stomach clenched. "I don't have qualifications, not the kind you're probably looking for. I'm a cleaner, high school diploma, no college degree, no experience in business or charity work." "Then with all due respect, what makes you think you're qualified for this position?" David's tone wasn't unkind, just direct. Before Rosa could answer, Khalid spoke. David, I appreciate your diligence, but I didn't bring Rosa here to justify herself to us. I brought her here because she has something none of us have, real understanding of the people we're trying to help. She's lived the struggle. She knows what poverty looks like, what it means to choose between medicine and food, what it feels like to watch your dreams die because you can't afford them. Mr. Alharith, Margaret interjected gently, I don't doubt Rosa's life experience is valuable, but running a foundation requires specific skills: financial management, grant-making, program development, fundraising. These aren't things you can do based purely on empathy, which is why Rosa won't be running the foundation alone, Khalid said. She'll be the director of community engagement and programs. Her role will be to ensure we're actually helping real people with real problems, not just throwing money at issues we think we understand. Margaret, you'll handle the financial and administrative side. Rosa will handle the human side. Together, you'll build something meaningful. Rosa found her voice. Last night, Mr. Alharith, Khalid, asked me a question. He asked if I ever felt invisible. The answer is yes. Every day of my working life. I clean offices where people walk past me like I'm furniture. I hear conversations about art auctions and vacation homes while I'm scrubbing toilets. There's a disconnect between the people who have and the people who need. She looked directly at David. You want to know what qualifies me? I know what it's like to cry in a hospital parking lot because you can't afford your mother's medication. I know what it's like to tell your brilliant daughter she can't follow her dreams because community college is all you can afford. I know what it's like to work until your body screams just to barely survive. That's my qualification. I understand the people you're trying to help because I am those people. The room was silent. Margaret's eyes had softened, and even David looked less skeptical. I'm not saying I can do this alone, Rosa continued. I'll need help, training, guidance. But if you're serious about creating a foundation that actually makes a difference, you need someone who won't let you lose sight of who you're serving, someone who won't be impressed by your money or intimidated by your power, someone who'll tell you when your ideas are out of touch with reality. Khalid smiled. See, this is exactly why I want her on board. David leaned back in his chair, studying Rosa. Okay, I can work with this. We'll structure it so that Rosa has authority over program direction and community outreach, but with safeguards and support systems. Margaret, you'll mentor her on the operational side. Margaret nodded. I'd be happy to. Actually, I think this could be really good. We've struggled to connect with the communities we serve. Having someone with Rosa's background could be invaluable. There's one condition, Rosa said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. My mother's medical treatment. Khalid mentioned health insurance, but she needs care now, before I officially start. Can that be arranged? Consider it done, Khalid said immediately. David, get her mother enrolled in our executive health plan today. Whatever treatment she needs, wherever she needs it. David nodded, making notes on his tablet. I'll have the paperwork ready by this afternoon. Rosa felt tears threatening. Thank you. You don't know what this means. I do, Khalid said softly. That's why I'm doing it. The meeting continued for another hour, discussing logistics, salary structure, and the foundation's mission. Rosa's head was spinning with information about tax structures, 5001c3 status, and grant-making procedures. But underneath the technical details, she felt a growing sense of purpose. This was real. This was happening. When the meeting concluded, Khalid asked Rosa to stay behind. Once they were alone, his professional demeanor softened. How are you feeling? He asked. Overwhelmed, terrified, excited. All of it at once. That's normal. This is a big change. He walked to the window, the same window where he'd stood in despair just hours earlier. I want to be honest with you about something. Last night I was in a very dark place. I'm still in a dark place if I'm being truthful. Losing Layla broke something in me that I'm not sure can be fixed. Khalid, he held up his hand. Let me finish. I need you to understand that this foundation, this work we're going to do together, it's not just about helping others. It's about saving myself. I need purpose. I need to believe that my daughter's life, as brief as it was, meant something, that her death can somehow lead to good in the world. That's not a bad thing, Rosa said gently. No, but it's important you know what you're signing up for. I'm going to have bad days. Days where I can barely function. Days where I might not show up at all. You'll need to be strong when I'm weak. Can you do that? Rosa thought about all the times she'd been strong when she wanted to collapse. All the double shifts when her body screamed for rest. All the times she'd smiled for Isabella when she wanted to cry. Yes, I can do that, but you have to promise me something in return. What's that? Don't give up. On yourself, on this foundation, on life. Your daughter would want you to live, really live, not just exist. Promise me you'll try. Khalid's eyes glistened. I promise I'll try. That's all I can offer right now. Then that's enough. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. This is for you. A signing bonus, I suppose. $25,000. Use it for your mother's immediate medical expenses, or your daughter's education, or whatever you need. Consider it an investment in our partnership. Rosa stared at the envelope like it might bite her. I can't accept that. Yes, you can. And you will, because I need you to understand that this is real, that I'm committed to this, to you, to making something good happen. He pressed the envelope into her hands. Take it, Rosa. You've earned it just by being human in a world that increasingly isn't. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Rosa threw herself into building the Layla Foundation with an intensity she didn't know she possessed. She worked alongside Margaret, learning the technical aspects of running a non-profit, while bringing her own insights into program development. They started small, funding medical care for families who couldn't afford it, providing scholarships for students from low-income backgrounds, creating support groups for bereaved parents. Rosa's real gift revealed itself in her ability to connect with the people they were helping. She conducted intake interviews personally, sitting with struggling mothers and listening to their stories. She visited families in their homes, seeing firsthand what they needed. She refused to hide behind bureaucracy or forms, insisting that every person who came to the foundation be treated with dignity and respect. This isn't about charity, she told the staff they hired. It's about justice. These are people who work hard, who deserve better than what they've been given. We're not doing them a favor. We're doing what should have been done all along. Khalid watched her transformation with something like wonder. In their weekly meetings, he often found himself simply listening as she passionately described a family they'd helped, or a program she wanted to launch. She had a vision that was clear and uncomplicated. Help people in real, tangible ways. No strings attached, no judgment, just help. But he also saw the toll it took on her. Rosa threw herself into the work with an almost manic energy, as if she was making up for lost time. She worked long hours, often staying at the office until late in the evening. Isabella worried about her. So did Khalid. 6 months after Rosa started, Khalid found her in the foundation's office at 10 p.m., surrounded by case files. Rosa, go home. She looked up, startled. I just need to finish reviewing these applications. There's a single mother in Brooklyn who needs help with her son's therapy. He has autism, and the wait list for services is, I know. I read the file. We're going to help them, but not tonight. Tonight you're going to go home, sleep, and remember that you can't save everyone, but we can try. There was a desperate edge to her voice. Every person we help, every family we support, it matters. I know it does, but you matter too. He sat down across from her. You're burning out, and I should know because I've been there. You're trying to save the world to avoid dealing with your own pain. What pain? Rosa asked defensively. I'm fine. My mother's treatment is going well. Isabella started at NYU this semester. Everything's good. Is it? When's the last time you took a day off? When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Rosa opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. She couldn't remember. You're doing the same thing I did, Khalid continued softly, throwing yourself into work to avoid feeling. But Rosa, feelings don't go away just because you ignore them. They wait. Maybe I don't want to feel, Rosa admitted, her voice breaking. Maybe if I stop moving, stop working, I'll remember that for 43 years I was invisible, that I spent the best years of my life cleaning up after people who never saw me, that I almost lost my mother, almost destroyed my daughter's future, all because I was born poor. Maybe I don't want to sit with that anger and grief. Then don't sit with it alone, Khalid said. That's what friends are for. Friends. The word hung between them. Over the past 6 months, their relationship had evolved into something neither of them had quite named. He was technically her boss, but they'd become each other's lifeline. Two broken people finding purpose in shared mission. How do you do it? Rosa asked. How do you get up every day and keep going when Layla is gone? Honestly, some days I don't. Some days I lie in bed and can't move. But then I think about this foundation, about the kids we're helping. And I think maybe Layla's watching somewhere. Maybe she's proud. That gets me up. He paused. And I think about people depending on me. You depending on me. I can't let you down. You're not letting anyone down, Rosa said firmly. You're human. You're grieving. That's allowed. So are you. Whatever you're feeling about your past, about how you were treated, it's valid. Be angry, be sad, but don't let it consume you the way grief almost consumed me. Rosa wiped at her eyes. When did we become each other's therapists? I think it happened that first night, when you stayed instead of running. We recognized something in each other. Pain, maybe, or resilience, or just the weight of carrying things alone for too long. I've never had a friend like you, Rosa admitted. Someone who actually listens. who sees me as more than just a cleaner or an employee or a single mother struggling to get by. And I've never had anyone who wasn't afraid to tell me the truth, Khalid countered, who doesn't treat me like some fragile thing that might break. Though I suppose I did break, didn't I? We both did, Rosa said. Maybe that's why we understand each other. Khalid stood and extended his hand. Come on, I'm taking you to dinner. Nothing fancy, just food and conversation that has nothing to do with case files or grant applications. Rosa hesitated. Is that appropriate? You're my boss. I'm your friend, he corrected. And friends don't let friends work themselves to death in empty offices. They ended up at a small Lebanese restaurant in Queens, the kind of place that reminded Khalid of his childhood. The owner recognized him immediately and treated them like family, bringing out dish after dish of fragrant food without being asked. This place is amazing, Rosa said, tasting the hummus. How did you find it? My father used to bring me here when I was a kid. After he died, I stopped coming. Too many memories. He looked around the familiar space. But maybe it's time to reclaim the good memories instead of hiding from them. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Khalid told stories about growing up as an immigrant kid, about his father's dreams for him, about building his company from nothing. Rosa shared memories of her own childhood in Mexico, the journey to America, the struggles and small victories that shaped her. Do you ever regret it? Khalid asked. Coming here? The American dream isn't always what it promises. Every day, Rosa said honestly. But then I look at Isabella, and I see all the opportunities she has that I never did. That's worth everything I've sacrificed. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She keeps me honest, keeps me grounded. When I started this job, I was terrified I'd lose myself, become someone I didn't recognize. But Isabella reminds me where I came from. Khalid smiled. I'd like to meet her sometime, if that's okay with you. She'd probably interrogate you about your intentions with her mother. Rosa laughed. She's very protective, as she should.